Hello, and welcome to Skittles Saturday Suggestions. My name is Sarah Tillinghast. I'm a Platinum Certified Whole Brain Teaching Instructor, and today is our final day of learning our last step in the magic circle with MicroStepping. This episode, like my other episodes, is dedicated to Andrea Schindler, one of the co-founders of Whole Brain Teaching and the MicroStepping guru. She has taught me everything that I am going to share for you today. So our last step in the magic circle is collaborative learning. Collaborative learning happens when your students are having conversations with what I usually refer to in my class, their shoulder partner. I also refer to them as their carpet neighbor or their table neighbor, depending on where you have your students sitting in the classroom. So because of that, I have my good friend, Ollie, coming today to get to be my partner when we're demonstrating the steps and what the students look like when they're turning to their neighbor and that kind of thing. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be a little bit of a longer episode, so hang in there with me. There are going to be 3 micro steps when teaching the collaborative learning. It's a 3-step process, and some of the steps may be with your class for a few weeks or a few months before you move on to the next, and that's okay. You have to go slow in order to go fast. Do not rush this, all right? You wanna make sure that your students have mastered the step that they're on before moving on to the next step, and some of the steps have little miniature scaffolding that we even add to that. So let's get started. So once you are ready, you've taught all the different parts. So you've done the attention getter, the manners, the mirror words, and you've repeated your point, your direct instruction 1 to 2 times. Those students now need to tell their neighbor that point. So at the beginning of the year, kindergartners, early learners, little learners, even sometimes second, third graders are a little hesitant to talk to the person sitting next to them, especially the younger learners. This may be their first time that they've ever been away from home. They're not going to just be super passionate about talking to the person next to them. So that is why the first step is just having them tell your neighbor. Notice I did not say turn to your neighbor and tell them. I just said tell your neighbor. That's because let's say my partner is Ollie and I am super shy. I'm not even ready to make eye contact with my neighbor. All right. So if I'm supposed to be telling my neighbor a point of today we're going to learn rule number 1, all right? Then this is what it may look like when it's time to tell your neighbor, okay? If I am a kindergartner learner. So today we're going to learn all about rule number 1. Rule number 1 is what we're going to learn today. All right, so I'm not even talking to him. I'm not making eye contact. And that's okay. And you may have some learners that are super excited, like Ollie here. And the first day, even when you just say, tell your neighbor, he's ready to engage his partner and say, hey, today we're going to learn rule number 1. Today we're going to learn rule number 1. We're so excited about today. And he's super excited. And you're just like, want that energy, right? But you don't always have that energy like some of my kiddos do in my classroom. But that's our first step. So the first step, make sure they master telling your neighbor. Now, I know you're thinking, kiddos, you're asking me to make sure the students master telling your neighbor. And that's exactly right. You want to see all of your kindergartners telling the point that you just taught, telling their neighbor, and not just sitting, not talking. Now, here's the other thing I want you to understand. You're looking for improvement, okay? You're not looking for 100% compliance. So when you see improvement, you award a star. Use those motivators. When you see improvement, you give that Alpha Hawk point on the scoreboard, all right? When you see improvement, you roll the dice for super improver stars, all right? I want you to make sure that you are, when it's time for them to do that collaborative learning, you as a teacher, you're walking around the room. And it's very important that you praise. And on your prompt, it's a quick prompt and then you move on. Okay. So if I come up to someone who's like me and Ollie, and I'm not talking and it's just Ollie talking, and I don't hear little Skittles repeating that point, I might just say, great job, everyone, on saying our point. And then I'll just look at little Skittles and say, don't forget, we're saying today we're going to learn rule number 1. And then I move on. I don't wait for a kid to argue with me. I don't wait to get a roll of the eyes. I prompt and move on. And then I find more praise. I always try to end with praise before I get them back to a class. Yes. All right. And we're going to get more into that with step 3. So hang in there. All right. So once they've mastered tell your neighbor, it's now time for them to learn a full turn. Now, like we talked about, Ollie here was ready to do a full turn day 1 because he just loves to talk and he knows to look at the person next to you. Whereas little Skittles is shy. Little Skittles doesn't have siblings at home, doesn't really engage with this is their first time interacting with peers, okay? So you gamify it. You make it into a game to teach them the full turn. So what you're trying to accomplish is for every student to turn and tell their neighbor. Okay? They're just going to turn and tell your neighbor. And I know you're thinking, Skittles, that's super easy. It's really not. It's not easy for all the kids to do. And you want them to do it quickly. You don't want them to be like, la, 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 la. Okay, I turned to my neighbor. All right. So there's 2 different variations of how you can gamify this. One is fast wheels. The second one is swivel chairs. You pick what's best, works for you. All right. And you do not have to use the phraseology verbatim that I use. You might want to change it up, and that's all good. So let's talk about fast wheels first. So how I explain fast wheels, and this is actually the one that I use the most. So I just say, hey, boys and girls, today we are going to get out our fast wheels to do a full turn to your neighbor. I want you to right now tell your neighbor how excited you are to get to use fast wheels today. I give them a chance to tell their neighbor about fast wheels. Right? And then I call them back. Say, boys and girls, we now are going to get our fast wheels out. So here's my fast wheels. Okay. Don't they look nice? All right. So I want you to now decorate your fast wheels. My fast wheels have rainbows and little polka dots and lots of sparkly glitter on them. Don't they look pretty? I want you to tell your neighbor all about how you've decorated your fast wheels. So then you let them talk about it. And that's really them getting to express their creativity and their personality. They're talking about lightning bolts and Mario, and some of them like skeletons and pretty princess ponies. It's what they want. So they are they're getting ownership in their fast wheels. All right. So now they're super excited. You bring them back to attention. You say, boys and girls, wow, our wheels are so fast. I want you to turn to your partner and say, woo, my wheels are super fast. And then they say it, and then my wheels are faster than a Superman when he's flying in the sky. My wheels are faster than a train. My wheels are faster than a locomotive. Oh, that's a train. So, I mean, you know what I get. You're giving different analogies on how fast their wheels are. All right. So this is the part where you may use a different phraseology than me. I say rears. Okay. You may say something different. But what I tell them, I say, okay, we are going to take our fast wheels and we're going to place them on our rears. And it's going to make our bodies turn super fast to our neighbors. All right. So let me get Ollie out. So let's pretend Ollie has his fast wheels on as well. And then you're just going to have them practice. Turn to your neighbor. Turn back to me. Wow, that's pretty fast. But let's see if we can be even faster. Turn to your neighbor. Turn back to me. And you have them keep practicing, all right? And try, if you're getting stories or if you scoreboard points or dice rolls, which you should be using motivators to get them to be faster on their turns. Don't just hand them out like they're free. Say things like, ooh, that was really close, but I'm pretty sure we could be faster. Have them do it again. And if you see improvement, award them with an improver star, award them with starries. All right. So that's one way you can do the second step. So really quick. The first step was tell your neighbor. We're now on the second step, learning to do a full turn to tell your neighbor. There's 2 games that you can do for the second step, and I did not plan for it to be step 2 has 2 different games, but it just worked out that way. So the other one is swivel chairs, which is similar to fast wheels. However, instead of decorating wheels, you're decorating a swivel chair, which, oh, look, Skittles is in a swivel chair. Now, they're not actually sitting in a swivel chair, but you probably have a swivel chair in your classroom that you can use as the example. And this is really good when they are actually sitting in a chair, that they are trying to make that chair into a swivel. However, they're not turning their chair, they're turning their body in the chair. Okay. So, how quick can they turn to their neighbor? So, it's the exact same steps. Say, you have them stand up. Okay. You have them stand up. I'm not going to stand up or I'll get out of the camera view, but say, hey, this is no longer just my desk chair. This is my brand new swivel chair. It's so fast. And then you have them decorate it. And then you have them get ready to turn fast. And you do that exact same thing. All right. When they have mastered full turns, telling their neighbor the report, I'm not the report, but the point that is a part of the direct instruction, which I didn't do a micro step on direct instruction, but you can learn more about direct instruction at wholebrainteaching.com. But once they've mastered step 2, you're ready for step 3. And again, I did not plan this, but there are 3 scaffolds when learning step 3 because you are now ready to do the teach okay, but you need to scaffold it still. All right. So, ready to do the teach okay. The first scaffold is they have to learn when they are saying okay. So when I say teach, you say okay. And they should be turning as you're saying okay. All right. So when I say teach, you say okay. And you're going to have them practice that. Use stories, use super improver. I'm going to do that one more time because I'm pretty sure I'm still cool. The first time I did my claps in the wrong order. So let me show you one more time. When I say teach, you're going to say okay. And you're turning as you say okay. And you just have them practice that over and over. Okay. Till they get that down. All right. Teach. Okay. Ooh, that was pretty fast, boys and girls, but I needed you to be a little bit faster. So just like what you did with fast wheels or swivel chair, use stories, use scoreboard to motivate them to be faster. Okay. But you want them to be safe at the same time. And that's kind of for another video, but make sure you always express to your students that Alpha Hawk Fast is still a safe fast. It's nothing that would harm someone around you, and it would be never fast where it would harm yourself. All right. So I always talk about that as well. All right. So scaffolding step 3, first you need them to make sure that they're turning as they're saying okay. Once they have that down, when they're saying okay, they should be turning and then looking directly at their neighbor. Okay. It's not okay. And this is one of those things that you can practice doing turtle slow or alpha hawk fast. All right. And have them do it. So turtle slow, teach. And then they get to be okay. All right. And then have them come back and you can do it. If then alpha hawk fast, teach. Okay. And you have them practice that. And again, award for motivation. So when you're doing the third step of doing the teach okay with a scaffold, first you're going to have them practice turning as they say okay. The second one is looking at your neighbor as you say okay. So that now they're doing 2 steps. And now you see why we have to scaffold because most students can't do that many directions all at once. You've got to build on it. You've got to scaffold it. So then the final scaffold, I know we're almost finished. is they have to keep teaching until you say class. Until this point, I do not set the expectation where they have to continually repeat the direct instruction. All right. So at this point, they are still just teaching the class. Okay. So, or not teaching the class, teaching their neighbors. So at this point, they're ready to do that. And so they should be telling their partner, today we are going to learn rule one. Today we're going to learn rule one. Today we're going to learn rule one. And then when I say class, they say yes and they come right back. Now, there's one more thing I'm going to include. There's one more thing I'm going to include in this. And what that is actually um talking about when you start doing partner turns. I do that after all of this. And that I'm going to save for next time, turning and having the partner switch and being the teacher. I have the partner switch, the uh-oh switch is what we use to do that. But these were just the 3 easy steps to get you started with the collaborative learning. I hope it's been helpful. Again, if you have any tips that you use in your classroom with the collaborative learning, please feel free to share. I'm going to include in the description a link to our website, which is totally completely free. And you can read more, or you can check out Coach's book, the second edition of Whole Brain Teaching for Challenging Kids, and check out the chapter on the magic circle, which will be super helpful for you as you get started in your journey. There's just so much to that, and that's all in chapter 6. And the microstepping is not in the book. That's why I'm making these videos, so that you have those to look back at, because we don't always get to record what we're doing in the classroom. So that's why I'm doing these quick videos this summer, so you have that to look at before you start